My name is Diana Sanchez. I am the Senior Director of Film here at TIFF. So excited to be here for this screening of Judy. Yay! So, to begin, we would like to acknowledge that tonight's event is taking place on the treaty territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation and the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and the Huron-Wendat, and we're extremely grateful to have this opportunity to work here in the community, so thank you. Very grateful to be presenting this film here at the Visa Screening Room at the Princess of Wales Theatre. Thank you, Visa Canada, for making this possible. It's a wonderful place to see a film. Thank you. And a reminder, the film is eligible for the Gross People's Choice Award, so you can vote for your favorite films online at tiff.net/vote. Big thank you to Entertainment One, Roadside Attractions, Pate International for providing us with this incredible film that we're about to see. So we have some guests. Yes. I'm going to bring out the director. He's a British director. His previous feature was True Story from 2015. Judy is his latest film. Please welcome Rupert Gould.
Good evening, everyone. You excited for Judy? Yeah. Are you guys up there excited? I saw Joker from like up that high last night, and I'm with you. I spoke to my daughter this afternoon, and she said, "Where are you, Daddy?" And I told her, and she said, "Oh my God, they made a whole movie festival about Dorothy's dog." And I said, "No, it's Toronto, not Toto, love." She may not have heard of Toronto, but when we were making this film, it's an independent movie of a certain scale. It happens to have a supernova performance within it, but the idea that we'd be at Toronto Festival would have been overwhelming. I think it probably would have overwhelmed me, and I would never have finished it if I'd felt that this time. And it's so fantastic to be here with such amazing cinema-loving audiences, and we're really, really, really thrilled. So thank you so much for being here. I'm going to bring out some other friends of Dorothy to join me here. First of all is our fantastic producer, David Livingston, whose idea this whole film was. Come on out, David. We also have some of the amazing actors who were part of this film. We had a fantastic time making it. It was for material that at times that is moving, tragic, at moments, it was a real blast to make, which we make no apology for. Part of that was to do with the very beautiful, very charismatic Finn Wittrock. Will you come and join us, Finn? Plays Mickey Deans, Judy's fifth husband. There was also someone else in this movie. We'd never heard of her. The other thing my daughter said to me, which she said to me every day after filming, was, "Dad, it's all about Renée." Which it was and should be, because she gives the most staggering performance for the ages. Come on out, Renée. Want to say some words? Hey, Renée. Come and say something to nice people.
Toronto! It is nice to be back here, and I'm not just buttering you up. I love this town. I've been coming here since the 90s, the mid-90s, the early mid-90s. And thank you for this warm welcome, and thank you for coming out tonight to share in what we felt was a huge celebration of beautiful Judy Garland and her legacy, which has touched all of us, I'm sure. So I'll just say thank you again, and hope you love it as much as we love making it. So have a great night.
You're coming back after, right? Yeah. And I have some great news. After the film, they'll all be back for the Q&A, so please stay, enjoy it. And Renée Zellweger, welcome.
Y'all better quit. You're messing up my makeup. Thank you. I'm deeply touched.
As you can tell, there are no words to describe your performance, so thank you. It's incredible. Yes, amazing. So I'm going to start because I have so many questions, and Rupert and David, like you mentioned at the beginning about finding this project, working together on it. Can you tell us a little bit about how Judy came to be?
That's me. I saw a play in London called The End of the Rainbow, and I optioned it after about 6 months of incredible hassle. And then I got somebody to write it, and we got 2 years of incredible hassle where it never came together. Then we got a writer called Tom Edge to write it, who wrote this brilliant version, but he did take a very long time, so there was a load of hassle involved in that as well. And then I sent it to Renée, and there was no hassle at all. And she signed on, and it was fantastic. That's how it started.
That's how it started.
Then Rupert came on board, and Rupert's going to carry on.
And what attracted you to, why did you want to tell the Judy Garland story?
Renée, but also I'd spent a lot of my professional life in the stage and doing theatre and musicals and opera, and I was really drawn to having been in small rooms seeing performers sing and what it is to perform. And in England we have this term lovey, which is like a kind of rude word to talk about acting, but I feel like actually to really give yourself to performance is very traumatic and exposing and vulnerable making, and Judy Garland obviously really went through that in her own performances and had a, she never phoned it in. It was always absolutely from her heart, and I thought something that could celebrate both that quality but also the waning of that quality and what it means to be an artist at the end of your career and feel that those things are leaving you was potentially really moving to me, at least anyway.
Oh, it's just beautiful. Thank you. I have a question for the actors now. It's always interesting to play people that actually live. So if you can both, I'm going to start with you, Finn, talk about how you researched that and like some of the challenges of playing someone that was a real character.
Mickey Deans wrote a book actually about his life with Judy, and it conflicts in some way with some of the other accounts of what's happened back then. So, it might be an unreliable narrator at certain times, but it was a really interesting perspective into his love of her. And although they had a kind of tumultuous relationship, I think there was a true love and devotion there from his point of view. So I read that, and I watched some documentary footage of him and them together. But most of my job was just to fall in love with Judy Garland, which was the easiest job I could imagine. And most of my prep was just watching great Judy Garland movies. So that was also a good perk, good homework to have.
Yep.
And then it was not too hard to fall in love with this actress over here either.
Of course.
Just when you can't turn pinker. Yeah, it's a different sense of responsibility that you feel to represent things as accurately as you can by sort of digging through the historical record and the public record of the legacy of Judy's life, and then firsthand accounts and anecdotes and things that people would write in biographies or share, always being a bit judicious in reading those things and considering the source, knowing a little bit about the vast gulf between a person's true history and the public account of that, and then trying to find a balance in between to fill in the blanks. Yeah, and it felt like I keep describing this experience as a series of shared experiments, and I can't remember the moment when we actually decided, yeah, let's do this. It was just a conversation, and then we started trying things, and it was always together. And Rupert said we were sort of mining for treasure, and the conversation sort of became about she, and discovering more and more about the experience, the private experience and imagining what Judy's private experience would have been. And we just, again, so we started trying things. We tried a little makeup, we tried these songs, and then we tried this choreography until it all sort of started coming together, and then suddenly here we are. It was a wonderful exploration that was driven by our admiration and affection for Judy, and it really was fluid and alive. And it was honestly, with everyone on the crew and with the cast, every day, just a celebration of her. It was a wonderful experience.
That sounds wonderful. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, yes, we do have lots. Go ahead, right here.
As a huge Judy Garland fan, like watching that movie, there were times I forgot that it was you playing that, like.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, I'm dying to know because that was spot on. Like, was Judy Garland an influence to you, kind of when you were growing up, deciding to be an actress? And was she one of your idols? Because I mean, if not.
Yeah. Absolutely. I'm going to repeat the question. First of all, the performance spot on, uncanny. I also had this experience. I'm like, I think that's Judy Garland, but it can't be. And it's wonderful to forget so that it's really not. And the question is, was Judy Garland an idol for you? Was she an influence for you? Can you talk about that?
Well, I didn't think I was going to be an actress growing up, so I don't think that I was collecting any kind of information when I was watching her growing up. She was just someone that I loved. She was part of my childhood, like I'm sure everybody here. You got in front of the television once a year to watch Wizard of Oz, and with my parents, she was always on the turntable, and we would watch reruns of her specials or any of the interview appearances that she had given or live performances when they came on television. And so I just loved her, and I'm sad to say that I took her for granted. Like a lot of people that you love in your life, you know, she was just always there. And she was, of course, extraordinary, and of course she deserved that place in history that she carved out for herself among the greats for all time. It wasn't until we did this film that I properly came to appreciate how truly extraordinary she was by learning about the circumstances she was grappling with in the third chapter of her life. And I feel like it's one thing to be born with this God-given mix of talents that are 1 in a million years, but it's quite another thing to carry on and navigate your way through what seem to be insurmountable difficulties. And I think in learning about that and in watching this, it kind of is what really sets her apart as not just iconic, but heroic, really. And I was falling more deeply in love the more we learned about her as we went through, so, yeah.
So we have a question here at the front. Where did Renee learn to sing? It's beautiful.
In a lot of rooms, in a lot of countries, with a lot of people, over a lot of months. I think we started with in Abbey Road, which is reason enough to say yes to any project. Come to Abbey Road and let's try some things. And I couldn't sing those songs initially because I didn't have the strength to do it. And we just worked. These guys were always there. And we just, I don't know, that's it. I have a lot of people to thank for that. And it was a fun, shared experience of growing. And Rupert's and David's boot in my backside to make me just do it. Just do it. But I can't. Yes, you can. But I can't. Yes, you can. But I can't. We don't care. Do it. So, that's it.
We have it. Oh, you did. Yes, go ahead, sir.
How was it to get a second life to the queerest icon of all time?
What's it like to give a second life to the queerest icon of all time? Was it?
A second life to the that's
Queerest icon of all time. It's a question for Finn.
Yeah, it's the scarves. Yeah.
Question over here. Go ahead. Oh, did you want to?
I was just going to say there's no ordinary moments, and Renee, what you've given us all is so extraordinary and magnificent. And I just wanted to ask Rupert that the way you went, the last two lines are so poignant. They're haunting. They're haunting. It's like Gordon Lightfoot song. It's haunting, and they'll stay with me for a long time. And I know that you only have a certain amount of time to work with, and you chose not to show the bitter end, which we know was not so pretty. Why end it right there with those two lines, which are so beautiful about "you won't protect me, promise you won't"? It's just haunting.
Right.
I'm curious what.
Yeah.
Right there.
So, Rupert, the question is, why did you choose to end the film when you did those two haunting, beautiful lines at the end?
Well, I suppose we felt that the structure of the film was that she makes this sort of Faustian pact at the beginning, saying, yes, I'll take fame. And then she learns the consequences of fame and rebels against that and is punished for it. And in the later phase of her life is trying to find some sort of normalcy or home, some idea of stability or something outside the exposure of the celebrity. But that, and God knows she deserved that, and I think we can all recognize that. But also the accounts of her when she was 2 years old coming on stage with the Gum Sisters sort of suggest that her real home was on stage, performing or in front of the camera, and that at the moment she felt abandoned and without love and forgotten, and probably sadly, tragically, she probably would have felt that in the last few months of her life, that she was not relevant in some way. We wanted to kind of leave the audience with the truth that she will always be remembered, and the simultaneous doubt about whether we're ever loved, and yet validation that we are loved by people maybe we don't even know about or in ways we don't understand. That felt a sort of both a Judy message but also an important kind of story to leave the audience with.
Yes, thank you.
Can I add a little thing?
Please do.
I'm going to half add. which is they are actual lines that an actual artist said at a concert I was at one point. I won't tell you who the artist was, but it made me feel quite emotional at the time. So I sort of snuck them in.
It's beautiful. We have a question here at the front. Go ahead, sir. We can bring this to the phone. So the question's just about.
You should put it on speaker. We'll say hi. Ladies and gentlemen, Bridget Jones. I'm not aware of the one thing that you talk about until moments like this, and it's overwhelming because it's not something that I think about, it's not something that I'm exposed to, and it's very surprising to me because we live a really insular life with the work that we do, and it's sort of a shared collaboration, and you kind of go underground, and so you forget that the things that you do are going to become public and possibly something that someone else shares feelings for. You forget that part until nights like tonight, which are unforgettable, by the way. Thank you. And the loneliness, I think that in certain circumstances, yes, I suppose, when the public persona enters the room before you do, and you never have an authentic exchange because people meet who they think you probably are based on projections. So certainly it can be challenging in that way, but I think any loneliness that I personally, and I can only speak for myself, that I personally have experienced is the same as anybody's good old-fashioned human loneliness.
I agree.
Which is few and far between because I got some good dogs, etc.
We've got a question here. Go ahead, sir.
This is for anybody who wants to answer it. I'm wondering if at the completion of this film, there's a number or a performance by Judy that you find yourself coming back to seeing differently. Is there something that you thought it maybe in the past one way, but now you see it completely differently?
So the question's about, for all of you, if there's a part of the film that comes back to you, right?
Sorry, yeah, no, just like a performance by Judy Garland
Right.
that you find yourself going back
Back to.
to. after you completed the
Okay, yeah. Is there a performance in the film by Judy Garland that you find yourself going back to now that you've completed the film? Yeah, all of you. I'd like to hear from you, actually.
Oh God, so many. I suppose you do return to the musical performances, but the work that we did in prep, or I did in prep, was maybe a bit more focused on the movies, but the sort of like nuggets of the musical performances, and I was a great champion of By Myself, which is the first number that Renée sings on stage, which is a less well-known number. It's not The Man That Got Away or a trolley song, but I love the drama of that, and as a filmmaker, I love weirdly the way the TV version of that was shot, and the way the dress sparkled, and just the kind of conviction in the storytelling. I loved it before the film. I love having reworked it with Renée. It was a privilege, and I could always go back to it.
Thank you. I think one of the things that we've all appreciated is how you are, like, you really show some full numbers. And can you talk about those directorial decisions? Because it really adds a lot of sparkle, as you say, to the film.
Yeah, I felt like it was a huge burden on the film to have Renée sing Garland really early on in the film, and so the tease about what that's going to be being held quite late. But I also feel that Judy's songs are stories, and that you can present them in like shards, but who would tell half a story? They need their full architecture. And I also felt like having, like I said, returning to being in rehearsal rooms with singers, seeing it happen live in front of you is a particularly kind of visceral experience. And we have, you know, American Idol and The Voice and all these shows that are showing us many cameras showing proscenium singing all the time. But I feel like if you know the singer, and you know, we should acknowledge that Renée not only sung all the songs but also sung them live. You know, and she sung them live and in one take in that opening number, which is, so there's no room for, by the way, if you do get it wrong, or if the camera gets it wrong, you know, you're already underway on that song, that's already costing your voice, you're not going to sing that more than 10 times in a day. Those are big, big songs, so, you know, but I feel somehow capturing the innate liveness was sort of part of the drama, and I think I was influenced by a quote that Fred Astaire had said about that when in his dance numbers, he always wanted a single take, the whole body shown, toe to top of the head, because the moment you cut away to someone's reaction, you know subliminally that it's a lie, you know, that they can compose it. Whereas if you just stay on the performer, it's happening in camera, real time, and there's nowhere for them to hide, which I'm sure Renée felt sometimes. You know, I feel that's true about particularly that first number, and then, you know, I think her performance in, you know, Over the Rainbow, the pressure of singing that song that we all know that is been interpreted by so many people must have been huge, and the intimacy and the sort of the fact it was shared in the room, and we managed to catch that with the audience who were there responding to it was a very live thing, and even though it's a film, I think I hope it, with Renée's amazing work, that it captures something essential about liveness.
Yeah, thank you. We've got time for one more question. Up, okay, in the balcony. You're right. You're right. Up there. Go ahead.
I think you've done a really poignant job of a juxtaposition of Judy's life with, you know, glamour and stardom, talent, childhood trauma, her role as a mother, kind of bringing it together in a character that really comes to life more so than just being this star on screen. I just was wondering if you could talk to kind of the different parts and how you brought that together and sort of bringing out a real person from this Judy Garland star that we all know and love.
Yeah, so the question is about Renée's performance. It's so textured and nuanced. She really brings all the different facets of Judy's life in such a complete way. And if you can talk about how you brought that all together.
Oh, I thought that was for Rupert.
Wasn't me up there.
No, but it was your vision and the way that you.
Yeah, I felt like, just super quickly, I felt that the Garland the diva and Garland the icon was not for free, but that's more available to us. But Judy is a mother, and I feel like it's really important that the film is, you know, led by a woman, and you know, with how many movies are really led by women over 40, that's a kind of a thing, and I felt like it was really important to invest in her femininity in a true sense, and her role as a, you know, a real woman who was fighting a custody battle with no money and dealing with patriarchy and all the systemic problems in Hollywood, and so I, for me, wanting it not to be just sort of a kind of gothic quality or like a histrionic quality was really important as a starting point, but of course Renée as an actress, you know, brings that innately anyway, and go on, you did it.
Well, Rupert was really clear from the beginning that he didn't want it to be an impersonation, which is tricky because that seemed like a good idea to me. But I understood what he meant, especially when, you know famous people. Anybody know famous people in here? Anybody know somebody famous? Right? It's a little different. You go out in the world, or when they perform and then they get home and they're on the couch and they're like not all that. You know what I mean? Well, I was assuming that there's a persona in the chair, and she's got the armor on in her interviews, and she's presenting a part of herself that she wants to share with the world. And in her performance, there's also, a quality that is starry and sparkly and very generous and loving in Judy's case. But that's her performance. It's a performance. And I was curious, as Rupert was, about exploring the person behind the spotlight when she goes home at night and takes off the armor and takes off the sparkly dress, and what that life might be like considering the circumstances she was grappling with at that time. And honestly, it was a we, the whole thing. So there were all the different parts of the crew, the different departments. It was alive, and we were sort of trying to conjure the spirit of this magnificent person, not psychically, but to grasp the essence of her, whether it was in the costume room or in the choreography, or when we go over and start singing the songs, and all of these things in the rehearsal space, until we found those little gems that seemed to be defining and familiar, and then we went from there. And it was always a we, to answer your question about how that balance came to the point where where you find it here in the film. It was just a shared exploration, and as we said before, a celebration. It really was. It was a spoiled, rotten adventure, honestly.
It sounds incredible. I want to thank Rupert, David, Finn, and Renee for coming to Toronto, sharing their film with us. Thank you.
Your director's saying take another bag.